Starting Point begins right now.
Oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah,
Oh, Joey Bells in the control room playing Marvin Gaye for me. You know, Joey, that is the way to get promoted in this company. No, I'm kidding. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to introduce you this morning to our panel who's joining us this morning. Don Peebles is back. He said, I'll come back anytime. And so we're like, oh, okay, we're going to have you back. It's nice to have you. It's, of course, he's the chairman and CEO of the Peebles Corporation. Will Kane is with us as well. And also Nancy Gosling, whose iPad that was going off just a moment ago.
I'm so sorry.
It's very nice to have you. We appreciate it this morning. Lots to get to. First, we're going to start on what's happening on Capitol Hill this morning. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is also ordering flags to be flown at half-staff on Saturday. Danielle Smith joins our panel this morning. It's nice to see you. She's an editor at Billboard magazine. You interviewed Whitney Houston back in 1995.
I did.
Were you surprised that this funeral is now private? Because it sort of kept growing and growing, and we heard Thursday, then we heard Friday, then we heard 12,000 people would be at the Prudential Center, and then all of a sudden it was like, no. What happened?
I'm not surprised. It's just, it's such a tragedy. And I'm sure her family wants some intimacy so that they can grieve comfortably.
At the same time, a lot of people gave a lot of flack to Clive Davis for going on with his Grammy part. Well, Nancy Giles is like,
oh my God, she was, I mean, her body was still in the hotel. I just think that's tasteless. I'm sure everybody was in shock. I don't know how I would have reacted, but have it somewhere else if you have to have, you know what I mean?
There are people who today say, you know, how could you possibly go on with a party when a massive tragedy has just happened and the death was of Whitney Houston, who was the mentee of the person throwing the party?
It was an awkward situation, I have to say. My mother always says people don't know how to act when people die. But I will say I wasn't near the hotel, but it was just awkward to be in Los Angeles, period. No one. I was at a different party that same night, and I felt like the DJ was playing all this music, and no one knew whether to dance or not, or just no one knew how to act.
We heard from the pastor Joe Carter about what's going to happen. I want to play a little chunk because it's sort of the same thing. It's like, do you have entertainers perform, or do you have a memorial service and people mourn, or is it a combination of the two? Here's what he said.
We're hearing a lot of entertainers are going to be here, and we're excited. The family really has put together a program that's going to be musical, be happy, be joyful, and really give the kind of feel to the congregation and those there that I think Whitney would want to be remembered by.
That's a tough spot to be in.
You know, I first met Whitney back in 1994. After President Clinton's first year in office, he had a presidential dinner, and Whitney performed. She had just given birth to her daughter, and there were allegations or rumors then about drug use and her taking medication to lose weight. But she gave a great performance, but she, even back then, she was a bit troubled. And then I remember the last time I saw her was at the BET Honors about 2 years ago, where she got a wonderful award. And then again, you know, she was still, you know, she was on her way to a comeback. I would think, just from the personality that I saw, that I think she'd want people to remember her in an upbeat, positive way.
People have been talking about the drug use. I mean, as you say, right, everyone sort of says, oh my God, what an amazing voice, and boy, what a struggle she had. A lot of people connected that struggle to her husband, to Bobby Brown. But then some people say it really predated their marriage.
I think people who abuse drugs generally have, you know, many instances it's within. I think we all have to be accountable for our own problems, and I think that sometimes we connect up with people who have similar personalities or similar issues with us. But you know, I think she certainly, you know, battled through some difficult times and was immensely successful and talented and giving throughout her life.
And coming back,
despite all that. Yeah.
I think she was on her way back. That's the sad part about it. I think with this movie, Sparkle, that's going to be released in August, I think just the idea of her singing gospel music, which is going directly back to her roots, it seemed like it was really going to be a rebirth.
Yeah, a lot of people said that it was just sort of, finally, a real opportunity to kind of turn the corner as a maturing artist and do something else. We're going to take a short break. We're going to be back with Danny. We're going to keep talking, obviously, about Whitney Houston Day and some of the plans that'll happen with her funeral and her memorial as well. First, though, let's get to other headlines. Christine's got that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite topic, Linsanity. Front page. You know it's a big deal when it's on the front page of the Post. Thrill, Lynn. Everybody's trying so hard. And it's on the back page Amazing.
Amazing.
It's like, okay, everybody, go back to work on that. Put a little more work on that. And again, in the Daily News, Lynn and a prayer, a little weak.
That sounds good.
Just Lynn time. Yeah. It's like,
Post-wins.
it's all surprise,
Post
right?
just has the headlines. They always know how to do
It
it.
reminds me of Tom Brady. Remember now, Tom Brady was sitting on the bench for the New England Patriots, and the starting quarterback got injured. And Tom Brady came off the bench, and he never sat down again, and he's been one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history.
And
this guy is an amazing point guard.
Last night, the New York Knicks star player. Now he's the star player.
I know, right?
He wasn't the star player like 2 weeks ago, but now he's the star player. He extended the team's winning streak. And God, the Knicks really needed it. Beat Toronto in a really dramatic fashion. See that three-pointer that he hit? Half a second.
And he waited.
Was left on the clock.
Waited it out.
Love it. The score was, I think, 90-87. Here's what he said.
I think it's a miracle from God, is the way I would describe it, just because, obviously, I don't think anybody expected this to happen.
Why do I love it when athletes are like, I just want to send a shout out to the Lord? I love it. I really do. I do. It's like every rapper who ever receives an award, they're always like, I want to thank Jesus Christ.
Sometimes for the songs that are filled with it's God's
But in
word.
this case, it's like, I love that.
It's
Will,
awesome.
why
No,
is
this
that?
is awesome. TV ratings for the Knicks are up 70% since he started.
And they have a team
starting
now.
For the Knicks.
And they
Yeah.
have a team now.
6-game winning streak. He scored 20 points in every one of these games. He scored over 20 points. The difference between he and Tom Brady's story is Lynn literally came out of nowhere. He wasn't drafted. He'd been released by 2 teams,
right.
and he was days from being released by the Knicks. They were putting him on the floor to see if he could play. The answer, quite obviously, is yes.
The interesting thing about this, of course, for Chinese journalists who are trying to figure out how to cover the story, he's Taiwanese, right? Which is considered this rebel province. So,
Right.
so they keep saying, many will say he's ethnically Chinese. It's like, no, he's actually Taiwanese, which is
There's
problematic.
a term called ethnically Chinese.
Well, no, I think they made it up. They're trying to be like, well, he's kind of sort of Chinese
Oh,
because he's
man.
really Taiwanese.
Also,
It's a
this is
problem.
one thing to watch. He's been doing this while the stars Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony are out. They come back very soon. We'll see if Lynn's sanity continues.
He could be number 3 of the big 3. But look, he didn't come out of nowhere. He was a top player in Palo Alto in high school. He
went
has
to Harvard.
Ivy League
Yes,
record, Ivy
absolutely.
League scoring record, and Harvard's now one of the top NBA
And
teams.
Harvard.
I mean, college teams.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
Hey.
well, yeah, it wasn't
My
nowhere.
son's going to Columbia. He plans to play there.
In
so
the
we'll see.
NBA, we're going to be doing a story. What's his first name?
Don.
Oh, Don Jr.
Don the third.
Don the third. We love it. All right, still ahead this morning on Starting Point. We're going to talk about China pouring money into the heartland of America. The man who's in line to become the leader of the largest country in the world is visiting a farm in Iowa today. We're going to chat with one of his hosts up next. Okay, our Get Real this morning. Maybe my favorite story of the day. You know, back in the day when you would trade your lunch with somebody else to get a better lunch. Well, one preschooler in North Carolina, what school is she at? She's at the West Hoke Elementary School. And this story comes to us, I should say, by the Carolina News Journal. A 4-year-old was forced to eat a lunch that was provided by her school after an inspector searched her lunch and then deemed it not nutritious enough. Her mother says that she sent her 4-year-old daughter to school with this: a turkey and cheese sandwich, a banana, potato chips, and apple juice. The inspector ruled that, in fact, she needed a vegetable. It's part of a program to comply with Department of Agriculture guidelines. So, along with her homemade lunch, she also had to eat a plate of chicken nuggets, milk, fruit, and vegetable. That was the lunch of the day. But her mom says, of course, the kid was freaked out. Reference back to, she's 4, and so she ate a couple chicken nuggets, you know, because that's what they eat, nothing else. So the whole thing backfired. The mother then says she also had to pay the $1.25 for the lunch, because, you know, they billed her for the lunch.
That they forced her child to
Yeah,
eat.
apparently, isn't this crazy? The Division of Child Development and Early Education at the Department of Health and Human Services requires all lunch served in pre-K programs to meet USDA guidelines. And apparently what her mom had... First of all, that lunch that her mother packed is so much better than anything I ever sent my kids to school with.
I never had a piece of fruit. Fruit was a luxury. You know, I peanut
Like
butter
you ditched that
jelly.
anday.
Bologna.
There's an example of government regulations going a little too far.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right. So I didn't even have to say it. The table said it, right?
Kismet, right here.
Remember this the next
Well,
time
you
one of
know
these
what's-
conversations comes up.
Well, that's just
just
crazy.
yeah.
See, but I think people hear that and they're like, no
Inevitable
rational
craziness.
person thinks that that's a good thing to do. No, Plus, now she's having chicken nuggets.
Yeah, that I don't think
that's
chicken
victory.
nuggets are, right.
Come on.
I know.
Of course, that's all my kids eat, but I'm speaking hypothetically. Still ahead this morning on Starting Point. Lawmakers are blasting those deep cuts to defense spending. $500 billion across the board, air, sea, boots on the ground. Congressman Duncan Hunter is going to join us. You know, he served in Iran and Afghanistan. We're going to talk about whether he thinks cost cutting like that could end up risking lives. Plus, do you think you're better than your boss? Yes, I do. Kidding, Shannon. You're awesome. Turns out we're not alone in that. We're going to tell you about that. You're watching Starting Point. We're back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. Let me introduce you once again to our panel. Nancy Giles joins us. It's nice to have you. Don Peebles is back. He said he'd come back when I needed him. Here he is this morning, borrowing my reading glasses. You can't see either.
No, I can't.
Really? You picked up her reading glasses?
No, we gave him my reading glasses.
I have the purple reading glasses.
He can't see.
Yep.
And Will Kane is back.
Good
Always
morning.
nice to have Will. He's feeling, are you better?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm feeling much better. Thank you.
He has two little children who brought home lots of germs.
Yeah,
He's
set us
feeling
back
good.
a couple days.
Yeah, but you're back. Strong, back strong. All right, let's talk about this tentative deal to extend the payroll tax cut. It would save an average family roughly $80 a month, and it's become a very big political issue. The deal would also expand unemployment benefits and could be voted on by the end of the week. A turning point, of course, on Monday when House Republican leaders dropped the demand that any extension would have to be paid for by spending cuts. Now, it is not clear if all Republicans are going to go along with that deal. Republican Congressman Alan West of the great state of Florida joins us. I enjoy him a lot. Yeah, let's talk politics, because why not? New polls to get to. Really interesting polls, especially this one, which is a new poll out in a key battleground state. It's all about the Santorum surge. This is a Quinnipiac University poll, and it shows Rick Santorum with a 7-point lead in the Buckeye State, and it confirms what we saw in our national polls, where Santorum has a 2-point lead over Mitt Romney. And then this poll, have you seen these favorability numbers? Can we pop those up? Favorability numbers, Mitt Romney's favorable numbers. I think these polls are kind of hard to read, but if you basically go top row, was 67%, has dropped down to 54%.
Oops.
That's bad. But then the unfavorable rating was 25% not that long ago, now 40%. All right, so let's go to Will Kane, because he's gearing up to say something.
Am I?
I don't think so.
You know what? I'm gearing up with a huge question mark above my head. I don't know what has happened, other than perhaps his interview with you. His one statement in the past couple weeks that went out there that was something that everyone could seemingly disagree with. I'm not very concerned about the poor people. What has happened to make his numbers on the unfavorability poll skyrocket?
Or is it Rick Santorum seeing possible?
Oh, no. This is the result of being the front runner for a long time. He's being attacked constantly at Gingrich. Santorum, the Republican Party, is not totally comfortable with him because he's more to the center. He's the most electable Republican out here campaigning. Newt Gingrich will be popping champagne. All of us on the Obama side, if Newt Gingrich were the nominee. Santorum couldn't hold his own state in Pennsylvania. Ultimately, this is Romney finding his legs and being bumped around, which is actually good for him. And by the way, Obama, look, Obama came off of the Iowa caucuses and caught Hillary Clinton in the polls in New Hampshire, and then Hillary Clinton
made him
recovered and beat him. Made him a stronger candidate. That's what's happening with Romney right now.
Okay, I just don't think so. I don't think it's going to make him a stronger candidate. I agree with you. I think that what he said when you interviewed him in this casual way adds up to a number of remarks that just makes him really seem pretty insensitive to what most middle-class and working-class people have to deal with. And although I completely can't believe Santorum on contraception and some of the other issues and women's place being in the home and whatnot, he has this working-class kind of air about him where he really connects with people in a way that
I think Santorum has, and I have followed him a little bit on the campaign trail, I think he has really genuinely gotten stronger. If you could pick a candidate who has use the time well to grow,
I agree with you.
I would say it's Rick Santorum. But what happens in Michigan? Let's say Mitt Romney loses in Michigan, which some polling suggests that he does.
Then we're going to have a hard time determining who the Republican nominee is going to be. We're going to go all the way to the convention, most likely. And at that point, who knows? But I would suspect even out of that convention, Mitt Romney would end up being the nominee. I think the best that guys like Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich can do is deny Mitt Romney a clear path, but it doesn't mean deny him an eventual path. Here's what I would ask you guys, and here's a difficult conversation, a difficult question.
We love difficult conversations.
If you are Mitt Romney, how do you attack Rick Santorum? Your path to attack Newt Gingrich was clear. I'm talking about in a primary. How do you convince Republican voters Rick Santorum is the wrong choice. Newt Gingrich, that was easy. He had such baggage that it was weighing him down from left to right. But how do you go after Rick Santorum? There's no clear path here to attack Rick
What about the
Santorum.
social issues? Is that a good
We're
place
in a
to start?
Republican primary?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not going to work. But we're going to have to continue this conversation in the commercial break. Stop. We're going to be talking ahead this morning on Starting Point about Republicans who've been slamming the president's defense budgets, deep cuts across the board. Some say it's disconnected from the risks, though. We'll talk about that. Plus, from Craigslist to Westminster Dog Show. Why do I always want to do that with a British accent? I don't know.
Doberman got second or third, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh, you like Dobermans?
I'm a big Doberman.
We will tell you, this is a great story. This is an American story. An abused pup becomes the nation's top dog. God bless America. You're watching Starting Point. This is a band called the Airborne Toxic Event. And I got a letter the other day, Jim Taylor, Kingsburg, California, and he said to me after I said I heard a little snippet, I didn't really like it. It was Eric Erickson's pick. I said, like, they sound like a bunch of people in the garage playing. Anyway, today I offer my apologies because here's what Jim Taylor wrote. I sincerely hope that you will listen to these songs, reconsider your comment, and consider only making on-air amends to the Airborne Toxic Event and their fans. Mikkel, Darren, Noah, Anna, and Stephen are not only talented musicians, they're one of the kindest, gracious, and most accessible groups of entertainment people that you will ever hope to meet.
Wait, to see their dad? Is that
Shame on you.
Totally. I feel bad. And so what I did was I came in and I listened all morning to the Airborne Toxic Event, which, by the way, is taken off of a Don DeLillo book, White Noise, right? So literary reference of one of my favorite books. And they're good. We, in the newsroom, decided we like them. They're really kind of
This sounds good.
They're good. Yes. So I would like to apologize profusely to Mikkel and Darren and Noah and Anna and Stephen. People should go to YouTube because they're very entertaining. They have, I like them. So I stand corrected. And Jim Taylor, thank you for the email.
Cecil, there's room for growth.
There he is. Oh, God. Me more than anybody. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, no, I think they're good. So I correct myself. All right. Headlines to get to this morning. Christine, 92. Danielle Smith is back with us. She's an editor at Billboard magazine. You know, it's so interesting to see that the family, in spite of all these people who would love this to be a public event, are really pushing to make it a private event.
I mean, I don't think anybody can even begin to understand. Maybe you can. But it's such a big moment in so many ways, but in other ways it's such a private and intimate moment. I mean, there's going to be weeping and crying and sadness and regret, and there's going to be all these things going on. I don't know if it needs to be fully public.
You know, Bernice King was telling me once about going to her father's funeral. And she said it really angered her that all these other people, got to be part of that moment. She said, because she was like, he was my dad, and she never saw, it was really interesting all those years later, sort of talking about how she felt as a child to see all these people, loving him so much when she felt it was her time. You have to imagine that the family would feel the same way. Earlier, we were talking to Nikki Gilbert from Brownstone.
I saw
and
that.
one of the things she said, I thought she was terrific. And she said, listen, we got to do something. One of her suggestions is to sort of have the record companies monitor. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because
I don't know about that.
She says, listen, they monitor your weight, they monitor your hair color, they monitor everything.
Artist. Yeah, they do.
Is that unrealistic?
But I don't know if that's really the way. I think that there is a personal responsibility that we all have to keep ourselves as happy and as healthy as we can.
But she has a point. If she gained 30 pounds and cut her hair off, they'd be calling her into the office. They would.
Right.
I mean, her look would matter more.
But do you really want the people at the record company saying to you, don't do this, don't do that?
No,
in
they
terms
can't
of
invade
drinking or smoking or eating or anything like that?
But they
And
do
also,
with regard to eating.
But they can't actually control it. Even if they do say it, she can still gain weight or lose weight or cut her hair or grow her hair out. It doesn't matter what anyone says to you. You're going to do what you want to do.
You brought this up in that same interview. You asked, do celebrities know how many people are rooting for them? I have to say, I'm a little taken aback by the amount of public attention that Whitney Houston has now garnered. Not because she wasn't great. She was great. But she hadn't been in the public eye for the last 10 years.
But when you grow
she's
up
not a celebrity. She's not a celebrity that people felt like they knew. That's not to say she doesn't deserve it. What I'm wondering is, did Whitney know that this many people were rooting for her, that she had this kind of support in her corner?
In her Oprah interview, she talked a lot about feeling like she had lost all sense of normalcy, right? You can't go to the corner anymore because you're famous now, and that people really didn't know who she was, that they had the sense of who she was. And it seemed like it was very frustrating and challenging for her.
It's apparent now. I wonder if it was apparent to her a week ago.
That's part of the cause of addiction. Frankly, when you look at substance abuse, the cause is normally insecurities or isolation. And I hope that that her death will do something positive, which is to bring attention to the suffering of millions of American women who are dealing with, who are being prescribed antidepressants, who are drinking, and who are suffering because there's this tremendous burden that society puts on women to be moms, to be wives, to be career women, to maintain this sense of beauty and youth.
And this isn't just for
and so
superstar
Whitney
singers.
Houston is not the only woman in America suffering, and she's certainly not the only woman in this last month that has died from some unusual cause at a young age.
She isn't. She isn't. But at the same time, it is difficult work being a pop star. It is difficult work having to hide who you are every single day.
To market who everybody thinks
But
you are.
it's a choice.
Exactly.
But it's a choice made. It's a choice that they seek out.
And it's got to be a painful choice at times. Danielle, it's nice to have you always. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Love it. Ahead on Starting Point, we're going to talk about a boy band sensation who has made his way to Broadway. Nick Jonas. Yes, Sophia, my daughter at home. Yes, now's the time to come back to the TV and watch the show. He's selling out
doesn't watch
How
for
to
you.
Succeed. Yeah, she doesn't care about mommy doing the show at all, but she wants to see Nick Jonas. He's going to join us live up next in just a moment after this break. Stay with us. SOS, Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas's hit song. The brothers became superstars with their self-titled album back in 2007. Nick's career started, though, well before that. He made his Broadway debut at the age of 8. Appeared in Annie, Get Your Gun, and you were also in Les Mis as well, right? Is that right?
I was in Annie, Get Your Gun, Beauty and the Beast, and Les Mis, and A Christmas Carol as well.
Oh, he's back on Broadway. 6-month run in the Tony Award-winning musical How to Succeed in Business without really trying. It's nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
The Twitter going crazy because you're here. Let me start. We were just talking about Whitney Houston and sort of the pressures of being a pop star. Do you feel that? I mean, do you feel like you have any kind of normal life at all? You are here with a host of people this morning because that's how you travel now.
Just starting with Whitney Houston, I mean, I found out, the whole cast of the show found out just before our show. And so it was extremely tough for all of us just because, she's such an inspiration for all of us as a vocalist. It was one of those things where we all had to take a minute and kind of center ourselves up again and get ready for the show because, we knew that the audience out there that night would need a bit of encouragement and uplifting. And she's an inspiration to so many people, and so for her and her family, prayers and blessing to all them. But, it's tough, and when you sort of are in this for as long as she's been in it, there are a lot of things that can become difficult, and I'm sure that being surrounded by the wrong people can also play into that. But I know for me personally, it's just about trying to do the best I can to kind of keep a level head through it all. And luckily, I've had 2 brothers with me the whole time, which has made it easier.
We were talking about the grueling schedule. You're doing 8 shows a week now, but it's gonna grow, right? You're gonna just start doing 2 shows on Saturdays and Sundays.
That's just one weekend. So one weekend we have 9 shows in a week, and the week before it's 7 shows. So it's kind of a little bit of a different schedule. But yeah, it's 8 shows a week, and this show is very intense as far as the dancing and the singing goes. And
are you physically exhausted? Let me show a clip of it first, because I mean, for everybody in New York, we've been to see the show, but. Is it physically exhausting?
It is really exhausting, but it's one of those things where I'd say where I've done shows. I did Les Mis in London 2010 over the summertime, and that's a really big vocal show. And with this one, the vocal side of it's amazing, and I love singing this show, but the dancing has really become a challenge, and it's a lot of talking as well. I have a softer talking voice, and so I've had to find a place to let it set in so my voice doesn't get tired on the talking side. But the singing is amazing, and I love doing that, no problem.
You have diabetes. You have juvenile diabetes. How does that play a role in your exhaustion and what does that exactly mean for your health-wise when you're doing something that's already physically grueling?
Yeah, it's just about keeping a close eye on it. I have a dresser in the show, someone that helps me get ready and get in my costume and all that, and they also kind of help me with this and give them my little pouch with all my supplies in it. Anything I need during the show, I have it. And the thing about diabetes is there are good days and there are in-between days and there are some bad days. And
what's a bad day feel like?
A bad day, would be when your blood sugar's high. The thing about, or when it's low, the thing about diabetes type 1, that is that it's unpredictable. You can do your best to sort of manage it as you hope it's going to end up during the day and take the right amount of insulin, eat the right things, and have some physical activity. But one day it could just decide it's going to be more difficult than others. And yesterday, for instance, was one of those days where it was a bit more difficult, but I just kept a close eye on it and made sure I was feeling my best for the show. And Luckily, I'm in the best health I've been in since my diagnosis. So
With
that's
all
a
that
good
dancing,
thing.
I bet you are.
Has anything happened to you during a performance with the diabetes that you had to combat really
Not
fast?
during the show,
Okay.
not during How to Succeed. I've really tried to keep a close eye on it because it is a really physical show. But on tour with my brothers, you know, I've been a diabetic now for going on 7 years this year. And so, you know, over time, there have been moments where I felt low or a high blood sugar on stage. And
What does that feel like? Are you dizzy? Or
it's a horrible feeling. High blood sugar, you know, you feel really thirsty. You have to use the restroom, and you know, your attitude can be a bit shaken just because your body's out of sync. And when you're low, you feel like you might pass out and you feel a bit sick. And so both are a horrible feeling, and you know, it's just about dealing with it in the moments.
You know, my top assistant in Florida, her daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes a little over a year ago at 2 years old or so. So she's adjusting to that. And the nice thing is that with the proper medical treatment and care, she's basically living a very normal and productive 3-year-old life.
Is that why you're so vocal about it?
I think so. I think, you know, the thing that was different about my journey with diabetes, I was at an age where I had an understanding about it. I can't imagine, you know, the young people that are diagnosed 2, 3, 4 years old, where they're still getting a grip on life, and then to have to deal with this on top of it. And maybe it would make things easier if it's something you've dealt with from the time you can remember. But with me, I was at a place where I was kind of, you know, aware of how to take care of it, and it was a bit overwhelming because it was a complete life adjustment, but I was able to deal with it, and I've got great tools and a great doctor, and that's what I focus on.
So Jordana from Italy says this. Hi, I'm Jordana. Can you ask Nick to say hi to me and just let him know I'm so proud of him, please? Can we show the crazy fans?
That's very sweet.
All right, Jordana,
Hello,
you owe me
Jordana.
so big.
Hello, Jordana. How are you?
I mean, is that...
One of a million. You just please.
I can tell you, I see Nick every morning. My 9-year-old daughter has a picture of Nick and his brothers and her when he performed at the inauguration of President Obama a couple years ago. And so every morning, so she asked me to make sure I told you hello.
Well,
And
Jordana,
Chloe.
you owe me big from Italy. It's nice to have you, Nick. Thanks for being
so
with
much
us this
for
morning. We
having me.
appreciate it. Your fans have been tweeting all morning, so we love that.
Hello
nice
to all of
have you. We got to take a short break. Still ahead on Starting Point. We celebrate a truly American passion, jazz, because it's Black History Month. And I'm on the board of the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, and it's my show, so I'm going to talk about it. That's straight ahead. I'll tell you all about it on Starting Point. If you're a jazz fan, or if you want to be one, you should start with Wynton Marsalis, who performs in this very building, which is connected to jazz at Lincoln Center. He's from a jazz royalty family, including his father, Ellis, and his brothers, Branford and Jason and Delfeo. Also, another name to know, Ron Carter. He was Miles Davis's bassist. Saw him last night for a Valentine's Day dinner. He's about to start his European tour. Sonny Rollins, a sax player. Do you know in 2011 he was awarded both the Kennedy Center Honors and also the National Medal of Arts. I think he's 84 years old.
Oh my God.
And last but not least, Irvin Mayfield Jr., who leads the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, which is helping bring back the city of New Orleans. So, a little Jazz 101.
Sonny Rollins played a soundtrack on one of my favorite movies, Alfie, years ago.
Yes.
And he's fantastic.
All rock stars, all those names, Google that, buy those albums. All right, Endpoint up next with our panelists. Stay with us, we're back in a moment. Endpoint, Will Kane, you're going to start for us.
I'm going to start. It's an amazing poll you have today that 73% of Americans don't feel we have an obligation to do anything in Syria. It raises some big questions. Is the United States going to be the world's police? Can we be? Can we afford to be? When and where will we intervene? These are tough questions to answer, and we kind of have to know these because these incidences will not stop happening.
This poll numbers really distress me. Don Peebles, what do you got for us, Endpoint?
I'm hopeful that Whitney Houston's death will bring greater awareness to the suffering that many Americans suffer and battle with various illnesses, especially substance abuse. And hopefully it'll bring a greater awareness to that. Between her death and Michael Jackson's death, I'm hopeful.
I agree with that. Nancy, you get to wrap it all up for us. No pressure there.
No, I can't tell if I love Jeremy Lin because he's such a fantastic ball player or because he reminds me of my freshman year crush at Oberlin, David Bassett. If you're out there watching, it was you, David. It was always you. Yeah, he's a doll. He's a doll.
And that is it. I love it. We're going to head over now to CNN Newsroom. Frederica Whitfield is in this morning. We wrap it up here. I'll see everybody back here at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning for Starting Point. Hey, Fred, good morning to you.
Hi, good to see you. All right, look forward to that. Thanks so much.